Wasabi guys, welcome back to another Commander video. Again, if you appreciate these, please do subscribe to the channel. I welcome you all here. Thanks for joining. We're going to be talking about 10 cards that could be reprinted. Now this is going to deviate from my typical approach where I go for more common sense reprints, things that are more likely to be reprinted even in a standard expansion. I opted to go for more expensive cards, things that were $30 or more, because I understand people want reprints for convenience, and people also want reprints so that they don't have to spend a good portion of their deck's overall total cost on one card. So let's start it off here with the first card, going in Wooburg order, starting with Colorless, I guess. We have Phyrexian Altar. Now it has been reprinted, but that was already 4 years ago, and I remember fearing that it would hurt the collectible value of the original one from Invasion, but it turns out it's still expensive, if not even more expensive than it's ever been. It's one of the best sack outlets ever made. You sacrifice a creature, you get 1 mana of any color, which is the trade-off between this and Ashnod's Altar. You only get 1 mana, but it could be of any color, and it is essential for a lot of combos, so if you are looking to combo, you are probably going to need either this or Ashnod's Altar. Some things are only possible if you have a Phyrexian Altar, and even if you're not looking to combo, there's still a ton of benefits to just sacrificing a couple creatures here or there, especially if those creatures have good death triggers. It is also a mana source, so whenever an opponent plays a split-second spell, you can sacrifice a creature to get around that. There are a lot of people who don't know that, so there are a ton of benefits here, fits into so many decks, a Commander all-star, and because of that, it is still incredibly expensive. And I don't want to say that a reprint would definitely bring the value of these cards down, it would just make them a little bit easier to find. The next one up, we have Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger. Now I know you all remember by now the Ulamog and Kozilek reprints that we would get pretty much every other Master set. It's already been 7 years for Ulamog without a reprint. It's also been 6 years without a reprint for the Emrakul that came out in Eldritch Moon, both of which are well over $50. But if I had to give the nod to any Eldrazi that needed a reprint, it's probably Ulamog. I think fundamentally when you're playing a multiplayer game, what Ulamog does is a little bit more valuable. You don't get the awesome Annihilator, but you're able to exile 2 target permanents. It can be any permanent, making this cast trigger even better than the original Ulamog, and the attack trigger exiling only 20 cards from a player's library is still going to be pretty powerful. It's still going to hurt them. Doesn't belong in every deck, but if you put it in your deck, you're definitely going to pack a bigger punch. The next card here, and it's one that maybe some people don't realize is expensive because it is a mythic from a core set, and core set cards are not typically thought of as super expensive, but for Resplendent Angel, you have on a 3 mana, 3/3 flying angel, which is pretty rare, a way to get more angels. You just have to keep gaining life, which in angel decks is pretty easy. Big time influence from Giada, which is one of the new commander options from New Capenna, so there's a big justification for why the price is going up, but we have over $30 for this pretty good card all around. I say it's good in Commander, but you could also throw it into something like Pioneer. Since it's no longer a standard legal card, that makes the most sense. If you don't have creatures with good life gain abilities for 6 mana, you can give it +2/+2 in lifelink. So it helps to enable its own trigger by giving you just enough life gain. Great card, I think it deserves to be reprinted because a lot of people are looking into Angel tribal decks, and we have a lot of expensive Angels already like Avacyn. Avacyn's been reprinted though, this hasn't. Next up we have Smothering Tithe. I'll give a slight honorable mention to another 4 mana white enchantment, Anointed Procession, which does absolutely deserve to be reprinted. Smothering Tithe being a little bit more expensive and a bit more universally playable, I think it does kind of deserve it a little bit more. This is a great card for decks that are lacking in the mana department, or decks that have a lot of mana sinks where all you want is more mana. The great thing about treasure tokens is that later in the game, once you get to your bigger spells and you just have a ton of them sitting on the field, you can sacrifice them all and maybe play something like an Ulamog or something devastating like a Torment of Hailfire. This makes that so much easier. If you're playing a mono white deck, you're going to want any advantage that you can get, so this is also great for that reason. I think people were initially drawn to it because it's like a Rhystic Study, but instead of card draw, you get treasure tokens. And being in white versus blue, I think people noticed that this was satisfying a need. And speaking of blue, we have the next card that I think should be reprinted, even though it's been reprinted before, Consecrated Sphinx. Still above $40. And I know people are going to complain and say it shouldn't be reprinted because no one should play Consecrated Sphinx, but you could say that for a lot of cards in this video, and because of that, people are still going to be looking for it, people are still going to be paying a lot of money for it. It even got a secret layer printing, which is the most recent one you're seeing right here, and it's still holding its value. So it's one of those great Commander cards people have been playing for a long time. Going back 10 years ago, even today, you throw this out on the field and people are going to be afraid. And the next card that deserves a reprint Imperial Seal. This has to be up there, at least the top 3 most discussed cards when it comes to reprints. Everyone in my comment section has said this before, Imperial Seal, Imperial Seal. I don't talk about it that much because I understand it's not super practical to reprint a card that is well over $400 unless they actually offer it as another Judge promo, which is what you're seeing here, or something else. They would have to bring back the Master sets because this is that expensive a card. They could technically do it for Modern Horizons. I just don't think people would want Imperial Seal to be playable in Modern. Its real home, to be honest, is Commander. That's where it's perfect. It's kind of that in-between Vampiric Tutor, but not quite as good. You get Sorcery Speed, Demonic Tutor. The point is, tutors are great. They're always going to be playable in this format. It's singleton. You need these just to make your strategy a little bit more consistent. And next up we have from Battle Bond, Archfiend of Despair. And Battle Bond is such a great set because you see a lot of expensive cards that haven't been reprinted for a long time, so it makes the collectible value pretty high. But this 8-mana demon isn't really that overpowered. It's basically Wound Reflection on a demon, which is pretty cool. Also makes it so that your opponents can't gain life. Incredibly expensive because I guess between Kalia and a lot of demon strategies in Commander, I don't know, maybe you're into Shadowborn Apostles, this can really act as a win con if you're playing a lot of other things in black that deal damage. If your opponents have to lose life at the beginning of each end step, equal to the total life they already lost, it really puts them on a clock. And next up we have originally from Urza's Saga, Argothian Enchantress. Does anyone else remember when this card was incredibly expensive before the first reprint in Eternal Masters, and then after the reprint she went down significantly? Well, now she's back up again to pretty high, and because of that, because Argothian Enchantress is such a valuable card for Enchantress strategies, I think she deserves another reprint. We are getting to the point with Enchantress strategies where you want more of an enchantment focus, meaning if you can get the Enchantress ability off of an enchantment rather than a creature, you're probably going to tend to go for that. But this one having Shroud is a huge advantage. Only 2 mana also makes her one of the cheapest Enchantresses. Great in Commander. I don't play Legacy, but I would imagine if you had to choose an Enchantress for Legacy, go for the one with Shroud. Next up, we have another card people talk about a lot whenever I make reprint videos, Finale of Devastation. If you like Court of Calling, if you like Tooth and Nail, you get in essence a green way of cheating an awesome creature into play while also providing yourself a win con. If X is 10 or more, creatures you control get +X and gain haste until end of turn. So if you're in green, you shouldn't have any problems getting to 12 mana. Giving your creatures that much power and haste until end of turn means you have a lot more options. You don't have to just rely on Craterhoof Behemoth to get the easy win anymore. Another advantage is that it's not just your library that you can cheat a creature into play, it's also your graveyard. So if you're playing more of a graveyard focused deck, this is still great. A lot of power here, and in more of the Spark, they went crazy with these Finale cards, the green one especially. And the last card I think deserves a reprint is Parallel Lives. You can see here this is the Judge promo, which my opinion on Judge promos, I don't think they really count for the purpose of reprinting, just because it doesn't make it much easier for people to get their hands on them. And I know a lot of you guys like to talk about, well, why don't you just proxy it? If I wanted to talk about proxying, I would make a separate channel. I discuss market trends. I often mention the value of cards in non-market related videos. To me, it's just way too easy to say, oh, proxy it, who cares? A lot of people do care, so that's why I talk about it. In Parallel Lives, I mentioned Anointed Procession earlier when talking about Smothering Tithe, and has gone even longer without a sufficient reprint. While I will say that white decks may be a little bit more dependent on creature production through tokens, green is no stranger to creature token production, and a lot of Commander options benefit off of creature tokens. I could have gone the easy route here and said Doubling Season for the 1,000,000th time, but I think by now we've realized that Doubling Season could be reprinted in every set from now until the end of time and still be like an $80 card. It's insane. I don't know why it can't go down. But Parallel Lives is a different situation. I think if it got a reprint, we could see the value start to change. We could see it go down, make it more accessible. So anyway, that's going to do it for my picks. These are 10 cards that I think should probably get a reprint soon. All of these are over $30 again. Different approach for this video. I know a lot of people want reprints for more expensive cards, so I hope you appreciate it. As always, if you haven't, please do subscribe. Commander Void here. I will see you all next time.